After the grueling global conflict of World War II, which led to the awesome horror of atomic energy, humanity was left with a lot to think about.
This has never happened before. What am I going to wear?
Many artistic minds of the post-war era found themselves creating stories and art that would be seen as the birth of modern science fiction in the 1950s. In the world of cinema, filmmakers explored these new ideas, new fears, and new scientific possibilities that were suddenly being thrust upon them. Living in the 1950s meant living in a world where anything and everything felt possible. That was both exciting and terrifying. You might think the limited special effects of the era would make its movies dated and irrelevant, but the best of these flicks made the most of what they had. And the stories those 50s sci-fi movies told became the foundation for plenty of stuff you probably didn't even realize, like that new streaming show you're watching. So fire your ray gun and spin up your flying saucer. This is Giant Freaking Robot.
3, 2, 1, fire!
And these are the 9 1950s sci-fi movies that are still worth watching. We know because, unlike most YouTube channels making videos like this, we've actually watched all these movies.
The War of the World!
H.G. Wells' classic alien invasion novel has been adapted a lot in both television series and movies. And those movies range from blockbuster studio epics to low-budget cheese and everything in between. And though we hate to make Dakota Fanning cry, we don't care when it comes to ditching Steven Spielberg and calling George Pal's 1953 film the best War of the Worlds movie. The movie takes the book and modernizes the plot, setting the conflict in the 1950s. It also changes the alien ships from tripod walkers in the novel into sleek floating ships with heat-spitting cobra heads, and they are just great. The movie's plan was originally to stick with tripods, but they eventually went with something that was more feasible for the era's limited practical effects. The change gives this version of the story a uniquely iconic look all on its own, and the movie remains as effectively tense and suspenseful now as it ever was. It's also a perfect window into America of the 1950s, complete with all the innocence of weekly square dances and the hard-edged determination brought back by soldiers who just survived a world war and now found themselves in an even larger one. What started as a Japanese allegory for the devastation of Japan during World War II has since become one of the top longest-running film franchises ever, and its monstrous antagonist is warmly embraced by fans as a hero over 70 years later. Gojira is the original Japanese name of the film, and the nuclear fire-breathing king of the monsters himself. But the name became popularized as Godzilla for the US release of the film. Just to be clear, we are recommending the original Japanese version, which is a much darker movie than you might expect considering the more colorful parts of the franchise. Sure, it's a guy in a lizard suit stomping on miniatures, but Godzilla is superbly shot, and the story is the template for all of the kaiju movies and shows you've ever seen. And though the city-stomping action with all its practical effects is enjoyable, the movie as a piece of cultural history is a vital post-war contemplation from the only nation to have an atomic weapon used on it. In 1954, Walt Disney turned Jules Verne's classic 1869 novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, into a big-budget blockbuster movie that was a certified success at the box office and as a creative endeavor. Since then, nobody has been able to capture the same magic into a movie adaptation, though David Fincher surely tried. The Disney film stars Kirk Douglas as harpooner Ned Land, and one of Hollywood's classic heavies, James Mason, as Captain Nemo.
The real story of the ocean depths begins where you left off.
Mixing parts of Verne's original novel with The Mysterious Island, the underappreciated sequel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea offers a film that is both a faithful adaptation of the groundbreaking story, while still providing some of that Disney charm. Nemo's rough, nihilistic edges are softened from the book, but Mason does a fantastic job with the complex Jules Verne character.
Here on the ocean floor is the only independence. Here I am free.
Who is either a villain or a tragic hero, depending on your point of view. Released during the opening years of the Cold War, The Day the Earth Stood Still explores what happens when an alien named Klaatu,
Mr. Klaatu?
Just Klaatu.
arrives in peace only to discover a fractured world rife with divisions. There's little action and the special effects are mostly rudimentary, but Michael Rennie's performance as Klaatu is haunting and established a template for aliens Hollywood still uses today.
Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your present course and face obliteration.
This classic story has been retold over and over in one way or another since, but the original 1951 movie remains the best and serves as a reminder that humanity hasn't advanced as much as we'd like to think.
I am fearful when I see people substituting fear for reason. In fact, I would like...
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you very much. I see another gentleman over here in the crowd. Would you care to say something?
This Island Earth was created with the intention of lifting the sci-fi genre beyond the realm of B-movie status. It didn't quite achieve that aim. The film's production is a mixed bag and the story is uneven, but it would go on to be regarded as a cult classic. This Island Earth is the story of a scientist who starts receiving mysterious deliveries of fantastical devices, accompanied by instructions on how to assemble them. When he's finished putting it all together, he discovers he's created a communication device and also completed a test to see if he's worthy of helping out a race of aliens under attack from a malevolent force. The most important and lasting legacy of this Island Earth is the influence it's had on the sci-fi genre since. Its DNA can be clearly found in modern sci-fi hits like Jodie Foster's Contact and even The Last Starfighter. Incidentally, though it wasn't the movie's intention, The Last Starfighter could easily be viewed as a sequel to This Island Earth. Not only is the premise similar, so are the big-headed, white-haired aliens behind the events of the film. If This Island Earth comes off as a little too stodgy for your barrier of entry, at least check out Mystery Science Theater 3000 the movie, which used the film for a comedic take anyone should enjoy.
Exeter died on impact. Brack was arraigned in Superior Court, County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial. This Island
Following World War II, atomic-era paranoia was felt everywhere around the globe. No one was sure what to expect next, resulting in movies like Godzilla, and in the United States, Them. But Them is a very different story from Godzilla, despite also being about giant creatures and atomic energy. It operates on a smaller scale, starting out in a remote desert with two cops investigating a series of murders. Them broadens out in scope, but slowly and methodically. It's the story of giant ants, yes, but also it's the story of competent and brave people doing all the right things to protect the world from the impossible. Godzilla is a disaster movie, but Them is more of a detective story, and it's worth seeing for the performances and well-thought-out writing, as much as it's worth seeing for those wonderful giant ants. More than half a century after its release, Forbidden Planet still stands as a monumental pillar in the field of science fiction cinema. With an unprecedented budget and innovative storytelling techniques, it's a movie you can legitimately say was ahead of its time. Directed by Fred M. Wilcox and starring Walter Pidgeon, Anne Francis, and Leslie Nielsen, yes, that Leslie Nielsen, Forbidden Planet's sizable funds were extensively used for creative set design, groundbreaking special effects, and the film's innovative score. The film is notably rooted in Shakespeare's fantasy, The Tempest, with elements of the plot and character dynamics mirroring the bard's timeless play.
Well, look at yourself. You see, you can't run around like that in front of men, particularly not a space wolf like Farman. So for Pete's sake, go home and put on something that'll, anything.
In Forbidden Planet, the crew of the starship C-57D travels to the distant Altair 4.
Welcome to Altair 4, gentlemen.
To uncover the fate of a lost expedition, ignoring some ominous warnings along the way.
Oh, murder.
The only survivors of this expedition are Dr. Edward Morbius, his daughter Altera, and their robot servant, Robbie.
Sorry, miss, I was giving myself an oil job.
Who present a mystery that grows more complex with the discovery of an unseen planetary force.
Last night I saw a flying object that couldn't have possibly been from this planet. But I can't say a word. I'm muzzled by army brass. I can't even admit I saw the thing.
In the words of Jerry Seinfeld,
"This isn't plans 1 through 8 from outer space. This is plan 9. This is the one that worked. The worst movie ever made."
Plan 9 from Outer Space has certainly garnered a reputation as one of the worst movies ever made. So much so that Johnny Depp starred in an Oscar-winning movie about the film's director, Ed Wood Jr., and portrayed him as a dopey kook.
Really? Worst film you ever saw? Well, my next one will be better.
Who was so passionate about making his movies that he couldn't even tell how bad they actually were.
Well, as long as they can think, we'll have our problems.
Side note, watch Ed Wood. It's delightful. So why watch Plan 9 from Outer Space at all?
We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives.
Well, we didn't call this a list of great movies. It's a list of movies worth watching. And anything this uniquely incompetent is actually worth watching. Originally titled Grave Robbers from Outer Space, the movie's plot involves an alien race and their attempt to reanimate hordes of recently deceased humans to march into all of the world's capitals. Despite its poor quality and laughable special effects, connoisseurs of bad movies cite Plan 9 from Outer Space as one of the best bad movies of all time. So does that even mean it really is a bad movie if enough people genuinely like it? See the pie plate flying saucers for yourself and make your own judgment.
God help us in the future.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across.
There was a sequel and there was a remake, but it's hard to top the original. Released in 1958, the first version of The Blob, directed by Irvin S. Yeworth Jr., is famous for its simple yet effective premise and contribution to the creature feature genre. The Blob begins when a meteorite crashes near a small town and an elderly man discovers a gelatinous substance attached to it. The blob-like creature quickly engulfs the old man, absorbing him and growing in size. A teenager named Steve Andrews, played by a 28-year-old Steve McQueen, who somehow already looks 40, witnesses the attack but faces skepticism from the authorities when he tries to warn them.
Man, I don't know what they're serving over there tonight. It sure must be great stuff.
As the Blob continues to grow and consume everything in its path, it becomes a massive threat that even attacks the local movie theater.
Hey, what's up?
And what better way to end our look at these must-see 50s sci-fi classics? Any movies from the era you think deserve the spotlight? Tell us all about them in the comments. Check out our other videos and make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more from Giant Freakin' Robot.
Sure, you think I'm a big hero, the man of the hour? Well, do any of you understand how a man can hurt inside?
Frank, they're not here for you.
There's no sea monster big enough to ever frighten me.